And so our practice today is about prana. It's about the breath. Prana is often described as this force that is present in all living beings. And so it is also the force that is absent in non-living beings. And with the help of the senses, it comes into us through our food and through the breath. So we will begin shortly with a breathing practice to enhance our capacity to access this vital force. Yeah? But first, I'm going to invite you to check in with the quality of prana that is in you at this moment now. So maybe you want to close your eyes so that you can be more sensitive to what's going on inside. And if you're feeling quite sluggish, fatigued in the body and the mind is a little foggy, maybe you rate yourself at a 3 because you're here, so that gives you at least a few points, right? You're willing to do the practice. You've come to sit and be with your breath. So that's worth a lot. And then maybe you're feeling steady in the body, present to your body. You are calm in the mind. You also have all the vigor that you need to act at any given moment. Maybe you rate yourself at a 10. So whatever you are, just observe that, because we're going to come back to this place once more 45 minutes from now, once our practice is completed, and we're just going to observe what effect the practice had, especially since it's a practice dedicated to prana. So we'll begin with a breath called Ujjayi. And for those of you who don't know it, quite simply, pretend you have a mirror in front of you and that you want to fog up that mirror. So go ahead and do that with me now. Do it with me. So this slight restriction of the throat, you're going to keep that. Maybe the breath won't be as forceful, maybe not as loud. And also, you want to cultivate that same motion with the breath moving in, and the mouth will be closed in both ways. Let's give it a go. Yeah? So exhale completely and begin breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. And again, continue at your own pace. And notice that the sound of the breath may be bringing an overtly active mind into a single centered point. So if the mind is agitated, to take on a breathing practice that has a sound that you can follow can be very advantageous. And as you continue with this breath, you may also notice that it has a calming effect on you. By restricting the throat slightly and being mindful, you are slowing down that breath and therefore having this effect in your nervous system that is of a calming nature. And then go ahead and return to regular breathing. And if your eyes were closed, you can reopen them. So prana, life force, the use of the senses is moving in through the foods, through the breath. But then once it's in the body, it travels in 5 distinct ways. And this is really of great value to us, because if these 5 we call vayus, winds, the breath, prana, if they're flowing properly in harmony, then there's well-being as a result. There's optimal health. If, however, they are in excess, or they are depleted, or there's a blockage, an obstruction of sorts, then dis-ease results. So today we're going to play with these 5 pranas, these 5 breaths, in various different asanas, and see the effects that they have on us. One of them we already played quite extensively last practice that we did, because the whole practice was dedicated to that breath. If you recall what it's called, you can leave a little note there. It's a way of me knowing that you're here, that we're gathering together, and also for other folks who may be eager to discover what the name is, can look up your answer. And then maybe you recall how the breath flowed, which direction that the prana flowed with that one particular vayu, and also what its purpose is. So you can go ahead and do that now. Take a moment. But in any case, we will visit it shortly. So let's begin our practice. Yeah? Let's go ahead and come into a kneeling position, and let's use that blanket to kneel on. So if your knees need lots of padding, then keep it folded like so. But otherwise, just use this fold so that you're a little bit closer to the ground, so that you're a little bit more stable. Yeah? So then as you come into a kneeling position, have your hips be directly above the knees directly below the hips. Okay? And then from here, bring one leg out to the side. Either leg will do. And then take your hands to your hips and encourage a downward flow, downward movement from your hips. Yeah. And then from this place of stability, reach the arms out to the side, and then rotating from your shoulders, open the palms of your hands. Let's try that again. Bring the palms down, and then from the shoulders, rotate the palms open. And now reach both arms all the way up to the ceiling. Nice. The neck is long here, and the arms are engaged, really, really engaged. The triceps are moving in to the biceps. There's length here. Nice. And your legs are still rooted. So from the navel up, the breath, the prana is rising. From the navel down, the breath, the prana is moving down. And then from here, lower that arm that's closest to the leg and slide it down the leg as you invite the opposite arm to arc up and around in the direction of that leg. And then from here, locate the sides of the lungs. Maybe there's a little bit of space between the ribs that you can access here with each breath without forcing, just allowing. So the intercostal muscles, they play a big role in our capacity to welcome, to access more breath. Yeah? So what you find is that as you remain in the pose, as you remain with your breath, little by little, more space is provided. And that's all you want. Yeah? Paringasana, which is the name of this pose, really is with the toes out like so. So it's a major range of motion there with the ankle. And then both hands come all the way down to meet the foot. So the good news is we don't have to be at the end of any pose to receive its results. We can just be where we are and move in the direction of. Okay? So as you come back to this center, just observe the effects that had on the side of the body that you just worked with. And know that the other side is jealous and he wants some attention too. So let's come on up. Bring that opposite leg out to the side. Once again, root. So this rooting is the prana, is the value that we worked with, that we dedicated the last practice to. And its name, maybe some of you got it right, is Apana Vayu, the breath that moves down and out. Responsible for elimination, the breath that grounds us, that stabilizes us, essential to immunity. Let's reach the arms out to the sides again. And then once more, rotating from the shoulder, open the palms. And reach back down. And once more, rotating from the shoulder, open up. And then reach up. Now here the neck is long. There's some freedom as you continue to root through the base. So Apana Vayu truly comes first because it gives us the ground, the stability from which to expand. So navel down, rooting through the legs. The muscles of the legs are rooting in. And then from the navel up, the sides of the body are beginning to open, beginning to access the sides of the body by just lengthening the arms. And then begin to arc around as you take that bottom arm and slide it down the leg. And breathe. So the back of the neck is free. The space between the ribs is what you're after, while maintaining a length of the spine. So this lateral opening is gradual, is gentle, and it gives so much, right? You're working directly with your lungs. Welcome prana. Welcome life force. And breathe. And breathe. And you just keep going as it's allowed, without straining, without rush. And when you feel that you've reached your maximum, perhaps look up, perhaps look down. Notice the effect that each of those have, and then come back to center. And bring that leg back in. And now maybe things feel a little bit even on both sides. Yeah. And still there's this sense of expansion. Yeah. We're moving in with the next vayu that we will address, the next prana, the next life direction of the breath. So let's take the first leg once again. Very engaged, very rooted, both hips aligned. And then let's take the opposite arm and let's bring it down. Now that hand, that wrist is directly below the shoulder here. Yeah, there's no strain on your shoulder whatsoever. And the opposite arm is reaching up. So now here, I want you to locate the vertebrae from the base to the crown, and I want you to encourage a little bit of length there. So it's somewhat in the directions that at an angle, right? You want to find that vertical axis, and then I want you to expand from there. Let's just make the center point the heart, because the center point is really the heart and the lungs for how this particular prana travels, this particular wind, air travels. And then from here, from the center of the heart, expand in all directions. Some of you will feel comfortable extending that leg all the way up. Don't force it. It's not necessary. You're still getting the effects of how this prana travels, how this air travels from here. Okay, it's just a little bit more stable. This is a little bit less stable. And so I introduce you to Vyana Vayu, the air that moves from the center of the heart out to the limbs. Lovely. And then come on back. As you went in, step that leg back in and come down. So as you may be observing right now, Vyana Vayu has a very expansive quality. Yeah? So from the heart and the center, and the lungs, it moves into the periphery. Let's do the second side. So once again, because it's so expansive, in particular, because it's so expansive, you do want to ground. Yeah? So root down through those legs. Find your hips, align them, and root down. And then from here, reach. Bring that bottom arm down. And the top arm comes up. And you can just stay right here. Some of you may recognize this as Trikonasana. Yeah? Stay here as you're happy here. But those of you who want to explore Trikonasana instead, maybe you are fully warmed up through the hamstrings, by all means, be there. Because both shapes are inviting this sense of moving from the center to the periphery. And they are in turn allowing you to expand, yeah? To open. Vyana Vayu is responsible for circulation. And then those of you who want to bring that bottom leg up, if you're standing, you're going to walk forward or maybe walk the leg back if you have a wall right there. And then just work with your balance here. So kneeling or standing, same idea. Having that foot up is going to be a little bit more challenging in terms of stability, right? Because now you only have one arm and one leg. But the more you engage through the muscles, the more you maintain a sense of calm, the more you draw in from the center and allow that breath to expand through the limbs, the lighter it will feel, the more accessible it will be for you to balance. And then as you're ready, come on back and come into Trikonasana, those of you who are here. And those of you who are on the ground, come back into your knees. Actually, let's all meet down, kneeling again. And once more, just observe. So Vyana Vayu, this prana that moves from center out, is not the prana that you want to work with right before bed, right? It's very stimulating. It's the prana that you want to work with first thing in the morning if you're having a difficult time getting started in your day, or maybe in the middle of the afternoon when you still have a lot ahead of you, but for some reason you have reached a type of plateau. Yeah? So it's just a way to circulate and reawaken. So what we're going to do next is we're just going to put these two motions together. The opening, so we'll start back the first leg, the leg turning out and opening up to the side rib. So Paringasana pose, or the variation of it. So as you invite this lateral stretch, make sure that you're not compromising anything else. Yeah, that the neck remains long, the tail is weighty, the pelvic floor is rising up, the belly, the abdomen is rising up and moving around in this lateral shape. And then from here, pivot the arm out to the other side. And open up into this variation of Trikonasana. So all of this, Apana Vayu, rooting you down, and Vyana Vayu, expanding. And if you wish, expand all the way So this is really wonderful to work with courage. Yeah, we're all being asked to have a lot of courage now. And so we play with balance, we play with expanding, and we do all of that from a grounded, stable place, right? With what we got. Notice. Vyana Vayu. The prana, the breath, responsible for circulation. And the second side. So similarly here, we open up from the intercostals. The back of the neck is free. The legs are engaged. Breathe. Smile. How privileged we are, huh? To be able to have this little pause to do some yoga. This is a great gift. I feel so fortunate. And then from here, shift. And bring that other leg up. If it feels stable, if it feels totally unstable and it's not appropriate, you get the same thing by being right here. So the center of Vyana Vayu is the heart and the lungs. And so you access the heart and the lungs and you expand from there, but not without them. Breathe. Opening up in all directions, all four limbs, the head and the tail. Open up, open up, open up. From the center to periphery, Vyana Vayu. And then come on back. And kneel in again. All right. So we'll let Vyana Vayu go for a moment. And we'll come down into our bellies. And as we come into this prone position, I'm going to invite you guys to take your blanket and do a threefold. Like so. The idea here is that from the navel down, you are rooting. And then from the navel up, you are rising. So this works a little bit as a ramp. Yeah? So as you adjust yourselves so that the hips are rooting down, and then from the belly, you begin to lengthen up. I want you to take your forearms onto the ground. Really root them down, broaden the collarbones, and now begin to round up the upper torso, the neck, back of the neck. And just allow yourselves to release any tightness, any tension that you may find there. Surely if you spend a lot of time on the computer as I do, there will be some tension, there will be some tightness, yeah? So just breathe into that. No need to force anything, but round and round and round. And then return about halfway through, halfway only. And now bring your left ear towards the left shoulder, feeling the opening on the right side. Don't strain it, just gentle. Ask the body permission to move in the direction. That will slow things down a little. Sounds silly, but it will make the world of a difference. Between you really discovering more space, more freedom, more prana, more life force in your body, and or being injured. So center, and then switch sides. The right ear to the right shoulder, opening up through the left side of the neck. And then coming back to center, round up once more all the way. So really open up between the shoulder blades, create space there. Push down through the forearms so that there's even more space. And then unravel, like a turtle coming out of its shell, lengthen out. So don't hyperextend the neck like this, just lengthen out. So magnetically draw the forearms back towards where the blanket is. And lengthen. So I introduce you now to Udana Vayu. This is the breath, the prana that comes out through the area of the throat. It's about self-expression. So again, forearms rooting down, collarbones open, legs are really strong, and lengthen, and lengthen, and lengthen. And then release that. Take the right arm across, like so. Bend your left leg. Open the left shoulder. And maybe find that you can catch that left foot. If you can't catch it, don't force it, yeah? There's no point in that. I'll give you something else to be able to open that thigh. But if you can catch the foot, then drive that heel to the outside of your thigh as best as you can, while lifting the thigh, the quadricep muscles, the front of the thighs, up towards the hamstrings. That should be quite intense, yeah? These are powerful muscles, yes? 4 very powerful muscles in the front of your thighs. They are eager to get a little bit of fresh air in there, yeah? So as you draw the thigh back towards the hamstring, draw the foot in a little bit more. Those of you who cannot catch the foot like this, simply bend the leg, pretend you have like a strong brick or something of that nature on top of the foot and lift it up. So the idea is to take the thigh bone back and up, yeah? Especially through the inner groin with the outer groin dropping down. And then go ahead and lower that and switch arms, switch sides. So here, you do want to even out the hips even as the leg bends, and you want to lengthen forward as you do that. So catch a hold of the foot if it's there. You may surprise yourself. The second side doesn't work where the other did. It's okay. It just wants a little bit extra attention, a little bit of love. So just again, bend that leg like so. Pretend you have a brick there on top and just lift up. Lift up. Same benefit, yeah? And then lower back down. But if you can catch the foot, then draw that heel towards the outer glute. So not like this, towards the outer glute. And take that thigh bone and drive it back up. Breathe. When things get tense, we do tend to forget what we most need, which is our breath. And so we use a sensation such as this, what we're experiencing in the quadricep right now, in the front of the thigh, to remind us that when the body wants to tighten, to tense, it's really important to welcome a breath, to welcome an outhalation, yeah? As my little niece says, outhale. And then you can't help but inhale right after that. And then when you're done with that torture chamber, release. But do notice that your legs are a little bit more grounded. Yeah? And so because they're a little bit more grounded, now you may be able to play with that Udana breath, the Udana Vayu that comes out, up and out with greater ease. Let's try. So the forearms are down, collarbones are wide, and you're dragging the forearms towards the waistline as you're sending the belly forward. The abdomen moves forward, the sternum moves forward, and you rise. Some of you who are comfortable and safe here and want to expand a little bit further and do a modified Shalabhasana by all means. And then when you're done, bring your hands to your forehead. Bring your forehead to your hands. And just notice the movement of prana. Notice the sensation. The pulsation of the heart. Self-expression. Udana Vayu. So let's come into our hands and knees. And since we have this blanket handy, let's take the feet with the heel on the ground and the ball of the foot on the blanket, like so. Okay? And some of us will be able to straighten out into Uttanasana. For some of us, this will not be possible. It's quite challenging. It's much more challenging than just your regular Uttanasana here. Yeah? So, but in any case, wherever you are, the legs are bent quite a bit. Then place your hands at your thighs, draw the hips back, and come into a standing position. And just notice that stretch, that opening through the calves. Now this is another set of very powerful muscles, so they do need to be stretched, even more so, yeah? Especially if we're going to stand in the world in a way that is rooted, solid. And while on that note, let's go ahead and step back and find ourselves in Tadasana. So here, as you come into Tadasana, pretend you're lying down in this pose. And if you were lying down, you notice that the back of the head and the sacrum and the backs of the heels are all in one plane. Yeah? Yet often we go about our days with our heads over here. Yeah, and all that weight dropping, and then no wonder we get so much tension in the shoulder, and most importantly, inability for the prana to move up, to nourish the brain, and to give us clarity of mind. Yeah? So drawing the head back slightly, shoulders open. And so as the toes are pointing straight ahead, the weight is at the front of your heels. The shins are moving forward slightly, and the thighs are moving back slightly. And the tail is weighty, although the pelvic floor is toned. The front of the abdomen rising up, those shoulders as if you had your arms rotating out, the shoulders rotate out. Tadasana, mountain pose. And here I introduce you to Prana Vayu, the breath that is up and moves in. And so with Prana Vayu in mind, with Udana, Vyana, and Apana, let's take Vrikshasana, tree pose. So we'll start with one foot at the ankle, like so, the knee out to the side, and then both sides are merging towards the center. Those of you who are having a little bit of a challenge staying balanced here, stay with this. You don't need to go any further. And those of you who can go further, bring that left leg to the inside of the other leg. And then go ahead and reach the arms up. If the wall allows you, or out. Wherever you are, there is the opportunity to discover more space, right? So we just have to reroute sometimes. Engage, breathe. So here, you're relying on Apana Vayu to root you down. Vyana Vayu, from the heart, from the lungs to expand out. Udana, perhaps if you go into a slight back bend, opening up through the throat. And then Prana Vayu, receiving inspiration. Prana nourishes all the other values. And then go ahead and bring it back down. And come back into Tadasana, just noticing how lovely it is to have both feet on the ground as opposed to one. And then let's visit the second side. So here, could be at your calf as well. And if you bring the foot all the way up to the other thigh, make sure that you're not dumping onto it. Yeah, make sure that you are really moving to the center. And then here again, reaching up. What your tree looks like as you wish. And see your tree placed at a mountaintop. Beautiful view. Solid. Majestic. Sometimes life is a little wobbly, or a lot wobbly, right? And that's when we want to come into our center and stabilize. So, moving towards closing, we still have one more prana, one more vayu to explore. We're going to keep this fold, and I'm going to give you my back just so that it's easier for you to see, and then we'll go from there. I'm going to invite you to sit your left tush onto the blanket and bring both legs to the right like so. So this right ankle is resting on top of the left thigh. And then from here, square the hips, even though that right tush is not on the blanket, square the hips. So you're using that blanket to root, to lift. So if you need more height, then use a block, books, you can be creative. But you want to maintain that nice curvature of the spine, that natural curve. Reach the arms up just to make sure that you're doing that exactly. And then as you're ready, take your right hand to the outside of the left thigh and the left arm back. Take a nice deep breath in here as you lengthen the spine. Prana, apana. And then revolve. As you exhale around that central axis, revolve. One breath at a time. You may reroute as you take the next in breath. And then exhale, revolve some more. Inhale. And exhale, revolve again. And let the head be the last thing to come. You're not jamming it. It's just coming naturally because the neck is an extension of the spine. And then inhale back to center. And we'll do the other side. This time the right cheek is going to go onto the blanket. I'll give you my front now so you can have another view of this. As the right cheek comes onto the blanket, both legs come out to the left. The left leg now is resting on the right arch of the foot. So avoid leaning, yeah? In order to revolve, you really need that central, the vertical axis nice and central, nice and long. Reach up. And then from here, left arm to the outside of the right leg, right arm back. Take a nice deep breath in here. And then on the out breath, begin to revolve around the vertebrae. Inhale, lengthen again. Make sure that you're not collapsing. And then exhale, revolve. Inhale, lengthen. And exhale, revolve. Inhale, lengthen. And revolve. And then inhaling back to neutral. Come back to a seated position just to be centered with this. And notice the effects of this action of prana. What we just did is called samana, is related to samana vayu. So that's the breath that moves from periphery to center. So just opposite of Vyana vayu. As it moves from periphery to center, it has this churning effect. So all twists have this quality to a certain degree. And Samana Vayu is about our ability to digest. But what we're digesting often is not just the foods that we eat, right? It's all the impressions that we take in. There's so much to what's being processed at any given time. So now we go into Shavasana, our resting pose. So you're going to take that blanket and you're going to make sure that part of the cushion, part of the blanket is right in this bony part of your neck. Okay? The C7. And then you're protecting the rest of the head with the blanket. So some of us, if you have a wall really close, you may need to fold it a bit. And then you want to have enough room behind you to extend your legs. But start with the legs bent. Locate the blanket first. Adjust it. Just so, yeah, so the tips of the shoulders are on the blanket. And then from here, place your feet down, lift your hips up, and lengthen the spine. And now just slide one leg at a time as best you can. And now take a hold of your left wrist, bring that shoulder up, and then open the arm out to the side. And then bring it back, hold on to the right wrist, open up that shoulder, and then bring both arms out to the side. And now, last but not least, if you have a scarf handy or something to cover your eyes, is worth it, especially if you're going to be here for a while. Yeah, so go ahead and take that for your eyes. And come back to where you were with a great length. The armpits are open. And then just scan the body for places that are still holding on. Yeah? Muscles perhaps that are still engaged. And let them go. So any part of the body that is still clenched, resisting, tight, working. The message now is the work is done. Surrender. The earth right beneath you. Give your weight to it. Now notice the bones. And let them drop as well. Let the weight of gravity take your bones to where gravity wants them to go, down. Continue in this way, melting, releasing. I will sit, but you stay down a little bit longer at least. I'm going to share a sweet little story about Prana. The story comes from a highly revered ancient text called the Upanishads. And the story goes something like this. These characters were having an argument. And to see that even in ancient times, characters were having arguments. And the argument was about which one was most important. Some things never change. And so they decided that they would exit the body one by one, because these characters lived in the body. And then, whichever one had the biggest impact upon their exit would win the prize of most important. So, hearing leaves the body, and although mute, the body remains. Speech leaves the body, and although Speech leaves the body, and although mute, the body remains. Hearing leaves the body, and although deaf, the body remains. Sight leaves the body, and although blind, the body remains. And then the mind leaves the body. Yet, although unconscious, the body remains. But when prana started to leave the body, all the senses gathered up along with the mind and rushed after prana and said, please, please, you can't go. We're losing all of our strength. And our body is dying. So prana returns. As you're ready, come up into a seated position. Take your time, using that upper arm to guide your way up, with the head being the last thing to come up. And then when you find yourselves back into a seated position, I'm going to invite you to return to that same inquiry where we first started. What is the quality of prana in my body and mind right now? What is the quality of prana in me right now? Now, if you find that it's gone up a little, a couple points at least, then you know what to do to get there again. The light in me bows to the light in you. Namaste.